Hello from Columbus, Ohio. I'm Scott Foltz alongside Jason Dye. Those stories plus the Aggies host the Tigers, a hurricane blows into Cincinnati, and the Irish take on some thirsty sailors.
And the Buckeyes head to Lincoln to husk the Huskers. All that coming up after this. You're watching Sports Talk on CFC, so stick around.
Well, last week had some great action, and our picks were no exception. Starting off hot in Auburn, a very exciting first half with the Tigers scoring 4 touchdowns while holding the Rebels to 2 TDs and a field goal, and then after the half, almost nothing. Both teams only able to put up 3 in the second half, Auburn going over Ole Miss by 11. Last week you picked a close one, and I say it was, and you picked Auburn to go over despite what we'd seen from the Rebels. They dominated every team they played except for Alabama. They broke it into the top 10 and were showing no signs of slowing down. And then this.
Yep, they ran into a problem. It was called Bo Nix.
Mm-hmm.
He had everything going. I mean, we talked about it last week. The big part of Auburn, got to get through Bo Nix. If they were able to stop him, I think Ole Miss could have won that game, but I just didn't see it happen.
They didn't get it done. Sticking with the SEC, the Bulldogs went into the swamp and ate the Gators like they were appetizers at a New Orleans restaurant. You said this would be a blowout. You called Georgia 30-16. 34-7, Georgia. Florida didn't score until the fourth quarter. I had hoped that a rivalry game would be a little more even, maybe fire Florida up, but Georgia seems unstoppable.
Yeah, and just how do you stop Georgia right now? You just don't. And not even a rivalry game right now can even stop them. It's just
no. They are a freight train out of control.
Yep. And then going on the Florida side, there's just a lot of things wrong down there in the swamp right now. So kind of not surprised by the result.
Turning now to the Big Ten, the battle for the Paul Bunyan Trophy was a nail-biter. Both teams going full speed, neither one backing down. This was Big Ten 60-minute football here. Michigan came out strong, the Wolverines holding Sparty scoreless in the first, but Michigan State came back in the second, scoring 2 touchdowns and pulling ahead by 1 until a Michigan touchdown and 2 field goals put the Wolverines back on top going into the half. The third quarter was light on action, both teams only scoring 1 touchdown, but Sparty went for 2 and got it. And then the fourth quarter was all Michigan State, the Spartans scoring 2 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion while holding the Wolverines to a field goal. 37-33 Michigan State.
Yeah, and I had picked Michigan to win this game, and, I feel foolish because I've got one name to tell you. Kenneth Walker III.
Yes, sir.
This guy is for real, and he gave that Wolverine defense a lot to really chew on going into their next game. I mean, he's nightmarish right now.
He was blowing through their front line and the linebacker core like they were all on him, and he still ran out the other side and then left the corners and the safeties eating dust.
Yeah, Mel Tucker had this Michigan State team ready for a fight, and that's exactly what they did, and good for them.
Yeah, he had some amazing runs.
It was okay, though, for me to be wrong. I was okay with it. I'm very happy with it, actually.
Same story in Columbus as the Buckeyes hosted Penn State a week after the Nittany Lions fell to Illinois in 9 overtimes. Penn State was fired up after that loss and came into the shoe ready to go, taking a 7-point lead and holding the Buckeyes to a field goal in the first. Ohio State came alive in the second, finding the end zone twice and holding Penn State to a field goal to go into halftime with a 17-10 lead. The third quarter saw the most action as Penn State scored twice and held the Buckeyes to a touchdown and a field goal, making it 27-24 Buckeyes. Fourth quarter was all about defense, neither team finding the end zone. Ohio State had to settle for 3 twice. The Nittany Lions were scoreless for the quarter. Final score, 33-24 Buckeyes. Penn State came in here angry. They had something to prove, not just to the college football world, but to themselves, and they played with fire. Yes, they lost, but they went down swinging, and they have nothing to be ashamed of.
Absolutely not. That Penn State defense seemed to be impenetrable down in the red zone for Ohio State. They gave Ohio State a lot of fits. I'm going to say right here, right now, that I think James Franklin in that week going into that game, big smokescreen. You didn't know a lot about Sean Clifford. He was saying he was okay or he was not okay or however it was, and he came out just firing on all cylinders there. I think Penn State really did prepare and they did prepare well. This was a great Big Ten fight. I mean, it was just great. And to see the big man touchdown on the defensive side of the ball, that got me fired up. I know that, that was great to see.
A big upset in the Big Ten West, Wisconsin wrecking the once mighty Iowa. The Badgers held the Hawkeyes to a single touchdown in the third, while they put up 27 points on a team that was once assumed to own the Big Ten West. Not only have the Hawkeyes fallen out of the top 10, they're fourth in the division, and Minnesota is back on top. What is going on in Iowa City?
It's pretty clear that everybody's figured them out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've, those first couple of games, Iowa's dominated, but there must have been a pattern that everybody just caught on to, and they always started using the same formula, and now Iowa's just flat out falling apart.
Just falling farther and farther down the ranks each week.
Mm-hmm.
We don't talk much about the ACC, mostly because there's been nothing to talk about this year. We had high hopes for Miami at the beginning of the year, but the Canes have struggled all season. Until last Saturday, when they put up 31 points in the first half to Pittsburgh's 17. The Panthers scored another 17 in the second half while holding the Hurricanes to a single touchdown in the third, but Miami pulls it out 38-34, pulling to 500 for the year and handing Pitt their second loss. Like Texas A&M and Alabama, we didn't give this game a thought.
No, absolutely not. I think Miami, I pretty much just wrote them off.
Yeah.
I mean, just
and so had I. Their performance this year hasn't been worth mentioning.
Nope, absolutely not. And Pitt was starting to become one of those rising stars in the ACC, but it's very clear that there's still a lot of we really other than Wake Forest, we really don't know. You just never know who's going to beat anybody in the ACC.
No. How many times have you said it? Any given Saturday.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Opening week 10, Auburn takes on Texas A&M in a game that Nick Saban will have his eye on. A&M already beat Alabama, and if the Aggies lose to Auburn here, that puts the Iron Bowl in question. But the Iron Bowl's in 3 weeks. The Aggies are right now. What do the Tigers have to do to win here?
Well, Texas A&M, they're coming off of 2 full weeks of rest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's a problem because now this team has had time to get healthy. They clearly know about Bo Nix. Everybody knows about Bo Nix. And, they've got to be able to attack with their running game and stop the running game of Auburn. Keeping it clean on third down, keeping that Auburn offense off the field.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Auburn going to be leaning heavy on Bo Nix again, and to keep the Aggies at bay. Auburn's pass rush is going to be good in this game. However, I don't think Auburn has the same luck going into this week like they did last week.
You think the Aggies are going to take this one?
I think so. 28-23 Auburn or Texas A&M.
All right. The Tulsa Golden Hurricanes return to Ohio, this time to Cincinnati, but at this point the Golden Hurricanes are more like a dribble. They're 3-5 for the year, going against an undefeated Bearcats team that now has something to prove.
Yep, and Tulsa obviously upset-minded right now. Cincinnati hasn't looked all that. I mean, they're undefeated right now.
Yeah, they're winning.
But Tulsa's looking for an upset.
Mm-hmm.
It would look good for Ohio State.
Yeah.
If Tulsa wins this game, but the key for Tulsa, you got to keep that Cincinnati offense off the field. There's just no doubt about it. But in this game, Cincinnati absolutely has got to lay the hammer down on Tulsa if they want to keep their in the hunt for the college football playoff,
which we'll discuss later in the show.
Yep. And they're going to be relying really heavy on Ritter and Ford's running game. It's going to be. I think Cincinnati's going to pull away, but they've got to keep the hammer down. So.
But you like the Bearcats in this one?
I do. 48-21.
It's Fleet Week in South Bend as the Navy takes on Notre Dame. The Irish have been on a roll this year, only losing to Cincinnati, but their wins have all been very close. They haven't really blown anyone out of the water. They're taking on a team that specializes in blowing things out of the water, but unfortunately for the midshipmen, other football teams are not on that list. Navy's only 2 wins were both under 6-point margins. However, they only lost to Cincinnati by 7 and managed to hang 20 points on the Bearcats, whereas Notre Dame only put up 13 and lost.
Yeah. Are we noticing a common trend right now?
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati's.
Mm-hmm.
The road through everything seems to be this week through Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
Navy will give Notre Dame fits. There's just no doubt about it. They give everybody fits. They're obviously with it being a military school, they're not going to give up. They're going to keep fighting.
No.
They're going to do everything they can to win this game. They have to get to Jack Cone. I mean, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to get to Jack Cone, but I still think Navy's going to give Notre Dame a lot of fits. I think as the game progresses, Jack Cone for Notre Dame, they eventually wear down that Navy defense, but everything seems to run through Cincinnati, but I do like Notre Dame in this one. 35-24.
Okay. And finally, Ohio State looks to continue their dominant run at Nebraska's expense as they come off a real fight against a tough Penn State. The Huskers are 3-6 for the year, winning a single conference game against Northwestern back in Week 5. They lost to Illinois, who lost to Penn State, who lost to Ohio State, and they lost to Minnesota, who lost to Ohio State. Does Nebraska have any chance at all here?
Well, no, but first of all, Nebraska's got to figure out how to contain this Ohio State offense. Ryan Day, they're going to be preparing to just all-out blitz and just completely attack Nebraska's secondary. I think they're going to be able to pick them apart up pretty easily. I think Nebraska's going to have to really throw a lot of trick plays in the book this week to keep OSU off balance. That it is still going to be hard to do. Look for Ryan Day to take the kill shots early and often. I think he wants to get this Ohio State offense back in a good rhythm. They lost it a little bit against Penn State. They had a lot of penalties. Look for them to clean it up here. And I think on Ohio State for the defensive side of the ball, I think defense is going to win big again here. I think Nebraska's in a lot of trouble.
So you're taking the Buckeyes in this one?
Yeah, absolutely. 58-23.
Okay. This week, the first official college football playoff rankings were announced. These are the official rankings that determine who's in and who's out.
And there are some interesting ones in and some interesting ones out. Starting at number 10, we have Notre Dame. They've got some key games coming up.
Yeah.
I don't want to say key games here. I think I want to say very winnable games to keep them on track. Do I see them making it into the top 4? No. But they play Georgia Tech, Virginia, and Stanford. Those are in any particular order. Completely winnable games for Notre Dame. Keep winning, they'll get a decent bowl game. Number 9, a team that's climbing its way up the ranks pretty quick. Wake Forest. They still got to play North Carolina State, Clemson, and Boston College. I think that's all winnable for them.
Yeah, with the way Clemson's been playing this year, they're not what they used to be.
No, not at all.
And the way the Demon Deacons are going, they can run over both North Carolina teams. Boston College might put up a fight, but I see Wake Forest winning out. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And number 8, one that I was in high favor of, that I've been saying all year long. I've been saying week after week after week. What have I said, Scott?
That Oklahoma, there was something there that just wasn't impressive.
Yeah, and the committee. Okay, week 1 college football playoff rankings. You don't get really excited about.
No.
But you got number 8, Oklahoma. They've got some winnable games, but I see some losable games here. They play Baylor, Iowa State, Oklahoma State. Potentially could get in the Big 12 title game if they win out. Right now, I'm even with Caleb Williams. That's great. Their offense is clicking. Defense still giving up a ton of points. I don't really think they're worthy of being in the top 4. I think the committee got it right off the bat. Not getting excited, just making a statement.
And you don't think they can take Baylor or OK State, do you?
No, I don't.
I don't think so. Or at least they'll beat one, but they won't beat both of them.
Yeah, and if they do, all right.
Yeah.
All right.
If they win the Big 12, you said it before, if they win the Big 12, you'll tip your hat.
Yep, fine.
And you win your conference, you've earned the respect.
And moving on to number 7, the Michigan Wolverines obviously just lost to Michigan State. They have some winnable games ahead in here too. Indiana, winnable. Penn State,
toss up.
Yep. Maryland, winnable. Ohio State, you already know where I'm going at with that one.
Yeah, I will say winnable because it's in Ann Arbor, but I don't think it's going to happen.
No, absolutely not.
But that's the game. That's the game. That can go either way any given year because of how much it means to both schools. And Michigan does have the advantage that it is played in the Big House this year. But this Buckeye team at this point in the season, tough to beat.
Yes, very, very. And then moving on to number 6, Cincinnati. First rankings, not getting excited. Kind of feel like this is a slap in the face of Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I just think
to fall from 2 to 6th.
Yeah.
Because being second in the AP poll and then put 6th here, that to me, that's telling these young men, with as hard as they've worked, managed to stay 8-0 for the year, undefeated, found ways to win. They clawed their way up from the bottom of the rankings from week 1, fighting through it every single week. And this just to get to number 2, and this just, to me, it tells them you're not a Power 5 school. You don't matter.
Yeah, and
all your work is useless. You might as well not even be playing.
Yeah, and we might even have the same argument if it was Coastal Carolina, if they were still undefeated.
Yeah.
I just...
Because they were impressive until it all fell apart.
Yep, and I'm looking at it like, okay, they've got winnable games here: Tulsa, South Florida, SMU, East Carolina.
Yeah,
winnable. Just keep winning.
Yeah, none of those 4 teams impress me.
Yeah, and right now, okay, I'm gonna go into it a little bit here. Cincinnati. If I put Cincinnati, Oklahoma on a neutral field right now, I'm pulling for the Bearcats. I think Cincinnati can take Oklahoma. Then moving on to number 5, The Ohio State University. Obviously, early season loss to Oregon.
Did not do us any favors.
But, okay, keep winning. That's the whole goal here, keep winning. They've got very winnable games. Nebraska, Purdue, Michigan State's going to be a tough one.
Michigan State the Buckeyes will have the advantage. That game will be played in the shoe, but Michigan State is not to be trifled with.
No, absolutely not. And then, of course, the game against Michigan. Win out, get to the Big Ten title game, beat your opponent, you're in. That's just where I'm at with it. And then going on number 4, Oregon. Oregon has a very favorable schedule too.
Yeah.
Now, maybe Utah, maybe Oregon State, because it's a rivalry game. I think, honestly, they can win out. I mean,
I don't see either Washington team beating them, either the Washington or Washington State. Utah, maybe. Oregon State, I'm with you, because that's a rivalry game. That's their last game of the season, their big game. Like the Buckeyes in Michigan, that game can go either way. So, but yeah, Oregon very much controls their own destiny at this point.
Absolutely.
Just keep winning.
Number 3, Michigan State. Michigan State, they got it right here.
Yeah.
They beat Michigan.
Yep.
They've done everything they needed to do to get to this point. So
they're the only undefeated team in the Big Ten.
Right.
And at this point, they own the Big Ten East.
Yep, they do. Until that matchup with Ohio State, we'll see. They have very winnable games too. Purdue, Maryland, of course.
Winnable.
Yep. I mean, Ohio State, they're gonna have a fight. Penn State, they're gonna have a fight. I mean, they're in the same spot that Ohio State is. They have to win out. They have to win out, win the Big Ten title to really lock themselves into the college football playoff. And here we go at number 2.
Yep.
I'm
not sold on this one.
I'm not, and there's a lot that I don't understand. Once again, I'm not getting excited, but come on. Bama's number 2. I get it. It's Alabama. I get it. But they lost to an
unranked
team,
Texas A&M.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I don't get it.
You can't be number 1 and lose to an unranked team halfway through the season and not have repercussions.
Right. And
here's something we talked about earlier. We discussed this off air, you and I, assuming, and I am, that the SEC title game is Georgia versus Alabama, and that's what it looks like it's going to be. If Alabama loses that game to Georgia and does not drop out of the top 4, I'm calling shenanigans.
Oh, absolutely. And the committee will probably, if that happens, okay, my conspiracy theorist hats now.
Yeah.
Bama lost to the best team in the country, ranked number 2, and okay, now you're telling me that a 2-loss Bama team deserves to be in the top 4? No. Over
say an Ohio State team or a 1-loss Oregon team, or even an undefeated Cincinnati team.
Yeah, come on. How fair is that? It's absolutely not.
Not at all.
But looking at their schedule, favorable.
Yeah.
Until maybe the Iron Bowl with Auburn.
Auburn is LSU, not a chance. New Mexico State, are you kidding me?
Well, I'm yawning.
Yeah.
Come on.
Arkansas, if it was the Arkansas of old, I'd say that might be a good game, but Arkansas was on a 3-game slide this year.
Yeah.
They lost 3 in a row. They're not going to beat Alabama.
Yeah, they've lost their luster, and
Yeah.
I mean, but Auburn, okay.
Auburn, it's the Iron Bowl. It's a rivalry game. Auburn has the best chance of their remaining games to go over Alabama, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously, number 1, Georgia. Who stops Georgia? The only person that stops Georgia is Georgia.
Yeah.
So they clearly have a very favorable schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Missouri, Tennessee, Charleston Southern. Come on, SEC.
Yeah.
You should be playing better.
You need to play real teams in November.
Yeah, come on. I mean, this is where you make your push, not tune-ups.
Yeah.
And Georgia Tech, a rivalry game.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech doesn't stand a chance.
No, Georgia Tech is not what they once were. It's the rivalry game, and you have to have it, but let's be honest.
Yeah. And, like I said, early, I'm not getting excited.
No.
But I am going to say 8 teams
Mm-hmm.
in the playoff. You got to do it because you've already got, after week 1, a lot of things will take care of itself. But what if this was the final rankings for the year?
Yeah.
How happy are you? How happy would you be if you're a
Not
Cincinnati
at all.
fan?
Not at all.
As Ohio State fans, do you think we're going to be happy with it?
No.
No, absolutely not. And it's just
Mostly
expanding.
because, yes, the Buckeyes are a 1-loss team. They lost to Oregon when Oregon was ranked.
Yep.
Alabama is a 1-loss team. They lost to Texas A&M when they were not ranked.
Yep. And I just know that if that, golly, I'd be really super ticked. I know that I'd be.
Yeah.
And I just expand to 8. And it's funny because a lot of those national heads now
Mm-hmm.
are starting to say,
You've
hey,
been saying it for years.
I was
I've
like-
been agreeing with you for years.
yeah,
A 4-game playoff, or no, I'm sorry, a 4-team playoff, that's barely a playoff.
it's not because
Even baseball, altogether, Major League Baseball has an 8-team playoff. 4 teams in the American League, 4 teams in the National League. You play through the series of games and it comes down to 2. This is 3 games. These 2 play each other. These 2 play each other. Winners play each other. Season's done.
yeah, I mean what? Bring that plethora of teams.
Yeah,
What about Wake Forest? Give them their shot.
exactly.
Okay.
And if Wake
Cincinnati their
Forest is in the playoffs and they run the table, well then they've earned it.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
what the playoffs are. You win or go home.
Yeah, and, or if you're going to expand to 8, put that Oklahoma team in there. Okay, now they
Yeah.
have to prove it. Okay,
Yep.
lot of criticism from myself about Oklahoma this year,
True.
rightfully so. I think
Yeah.
go into the playoff and if they're bad, if they're as bad as people say they are, prove it. Go in there and beat Alabama. Go in there. Then you got to get through a couple games before you get to Cincinnati or Georgia. I mean, come on.
No, they played Georgia first because the top seed plays the 8th seed. So if
Okay.
Oklahoma was 8th, and they're not beating Georgia.
No, and put your money where the mouth is. And
But they might give a showing.
yeah,
They might punch Georgia in the mouth.
Yeah.
They're not going to win, but they might bloody their nose
I mean,
and earn some respect.
yeah, I almost think it's like the college football playoff committee. It's like too much for them to process. Well, first of all, we said it, dollar bills, y'all.
Yep.
I mean, all day
It's
long.
all about the money.
And I mean, I think after this year, if there isn't another serious campaign to bring the playoffs to 8 teams or more,
Yeah. 8. I'll settle for 8 teams now and
Yeah.
go for, and that's got to generate more money.
Yeah.
Because the sponsorships, you give these bowl games, make them playoff games, that's going to generate money for both the NCAA and whoever sponsors the game.
yeah. Now I know just week 1, not getting crazy
Yeah.
yet, but yeah,
These are our opinions.
yeah, just our opinions, and we're usually right in our own minds because we're allowed to be.
Exactly. And that's it for us. Join us again next week as the race for the college football playoffs tightens up. You've been watching Sports Talk on CFC. We'll see you next time.